In looking at other books cataloging signs, you find that the descriptions of movement and sign forms are all in writing, which look like this. Some mention the right or left hand along with palm orientation, meaning that they already recognize these parameters but didn't realize that their choices described different contrastive features. But the movement for this sign, meaning signs, is one I've always seen with this hand orientation. Now this picture and the description are trying to show a form that's produced like this. The description works for that form, but now if you look at books from other periods, those descriptions already show this articulation. If you look at the old films, it's also produced this way. Higgins' form is the only one that's different and is accompanied by a detailed explanation of how to articulate it. Maybe this was a regional dialect that he learned, in which the form is produced that way. In watching signers, perhaps he thought this was how it should be formed. You have to think about the plane for making movement, the contour, which wasn't the same as the standard form. For me, I think of the sign as moving on a plane perpendicular to the body, moving inward. Higgins describes a plane parallel to the body, with both hands alternating their movements. Now, the plane is important. This is recognized in later research and is included in chirology, but Stokoe didn't explicitly mention it. Still, it's relevant in discussing this sign. So next, I'd like to discuss exactly what Higgins' version would look like using chirology. Here's the DASL notation. There are two hand-shaped symbols because the sign is two-handed. The movement is circular, shown here, and this diacritic denotes an inward direction versus outward, resulting in a movement like this. The combination of these symbols indicates the plane. The tilde represents interaction between the hands, alternating so that one hand moves, followed by the other in a continuous movement. This symbol combination resolves concerns about how to coordinate multiple movements. In order to produce the right form, this cluster has to remain intact. While now, for hand shape, the G symbol is not enough. The forearm is used as well, so this symbol must be used for the arm. You can have two symbols for the entire arm, meaning that some signs use the upper arm, except for when it's a location, as in this sign, meaning hospital. But that's not what it means here. The collocation with the G symbol means that although you saw it used as location in tab, it can also be a part of des. These paired symbols mean a larger movement is used that involves arm joint movement, distinguishing elbow and wrist movements. If the G symbol were used alone, then the form would look like this. But with the arm, it's like this. This image is from a book of present-day signs and uses a perpendicular plane, indicating that the DASL notation was of the standard dialect. Now, that means we could adequately describe movement in writing for some time, but what was done with complex signs? In these cases, two signs may have been used together. For example, sign and language are often formed like this. In that case, you'd keep this notation for sign, but make another notation, like this one, for this form meaning language. Here's a picture of it. But in the DASL, the notations might appear separately, Yet there are times when the authors wanted to show a connection between signs by starting notations with a dash, like this. That means it's connected to an earlier entry, which is a root that the sign can be added to. This notation is listed with a dash for its connection to sign. Now combined, you get this form of sign language. The F symbols are for this hand shape, while the vertical mark indicates initial contact. The outward movement is represented by the division symbol, giving you this form. The lowercase w implies a twisting movement of the wrist, giving you this form of language.